Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Storyline Collectives. If you're drawn to chilling mysteries, true crime stories, and tales that blur the line between the real and the supernatural, you're in the right place. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that will keep you up at night. Now let's dive into the haunting tale of Willow Creek Manor, where the echoes of the past still resonate through its walls. In the heart of the sleepy town of Alderwick stood Willow Creek Manor, an imposing structure that had seen better days. Built in 1875, the manor had been home to generations of the Caraway family, who were once the wealthiest and most respected residents in the area. Their legacy, however, was marred by rumors and whispers of betrayal, greed, and a murder that had been covered up and forgotten, or so the townsfolk thought. The story began with Margaret Caraway, the last of the family line. A woman of striking beauty and fierce intelligence, Margaret was known for her charitable endeavors and sharp mind. But she had a dark side, one that only those closest to her knew about. Her marriage to Charles Ashton, a young and ambitious banker from the city, was meant to unite two powerful families, but it quickly turned into a battlefield. Friends and servants alike spoke in hushed tones of their bitter arguments and the rumors that Charles was involved in a secret affair. Yet no one could have predicted the fateful night in 1913 when Margaret was found dead, her body sprawled at the foot of the grand staircase. The police had ruled her death an accident, a tragic fall down the marble steps. But whispers of foul play spread like wildfire through Alderwick. The servants claimed to have heard screams echoing through the manor in the dead of night, and a neighbor swore she saw a shadowy figure disappear from the window just moments before the authorities arrived. But despite the rumors, the case was never reopened, and Margaret Caraway's death was dismissed as nothing more than a sad coincidence. The years rolled by, and Willow Creek Manor passed into the hands of distant relatives who had no interest in the property. It remained abandoned for decades, its halls gathering dust and its history fading into the mists of time. That was until Nora Bennett, a journalist with a reputation for uncovering hidden truths, decided to make the manor the subject of her next article. Nora had grown up hearing tales of Willow Creek and the ghostly rumors surrounding Margaret Caraway's death. The thought of revealing the real story was irresistible. Nora's investigation began with old records, interviews with surviving elders in Alderwick, and a visit to the town's archive. The more she delved, the more she discovered the whispers had truth behind them. Margaret had been on the verge of revealing a scandal that involved her husband, and a financial scheme that threatened to ruin the town. A scheme so deep that even the local authorities were involved. And then there was the mysterious visitor, a shadowy figure said to have been seen at the manor on the night of Margaret's death. The old stories spoke of a spirit, but Nora was determined to find out if it was merely folklore. As Nora spent nights at Willow Creek Manor, strange things began to happen. The temperature dropped dramatically in certain rooms, and she would hear the faint sound of heels clicking against the marble floors, though she knew she was alone. Objects were displaced, and the pages of an old journal would turn on their own as if seeking her attention. Her most chilling encounter came one evening when she was sitting in the drawing room, studying an old photograph of Margaret. The air grew heavy and a soft whisper filled the space, just barely audible above the wind outside. "Help me." Startled, Nora glanced around but saw no one. Her pulse quickened and she couldn't shake the feeling that Margaret's spirit was trying to communicate. It wasn't long before she discovered the journal hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. The journal was filled with Margaret's musings, but it was the final entry that made Nora's blood run cold. It spoke of betrayal, a plan to confront Charles, and a promise that the truth would come out. "If I fall tonight, it will not be an accident. Remember my words," the entry read. As the days went on, Nora uncovered more about the sinister network surrounding Charles Ashton. He had conspired to keep his affair hidden and ensure that Margaret's death would be ruled an accident. But he had underestimated Margaret's will. She had set a trap, leaving clues that only someone brave enough to look past the surface would find. Nora realized that Margaret's spirit had been trapped, unable to rest until the truth was brought to light. One night, with the full moon casting its light over the manor, Nora decided to conduct a séance. She was desperate for answers and needed to speak directly to Margaret's spirit. Candles flickered, casting long, wavering shadows on the walls as she sat in the grand parlor, surrounded by the old furniture that once belonged to the Caraway family. With her voice steady but filled with anticipation, she called out, "Margaret Caraway, if you are here, I seek your truth." The room grew colder, and then the faintest sound of a woman's voice whispered, "You're not alone." The air thickened, and Nora felt the presence of the past pressing down on her. The voice continued, speaking of a betrayal, of a night that had ended in tragedy, and of a spirit that had never found peace. But it was the final words that shook her to her core: "Find the proof." Determined, Nora spent the next few days searching through the manor's hidden corners. She found a secret room behind an old tapestry, where a series of letters between Charles Ashton and a mysterious third party were hidden. The letters revealed that Charles had plotted to silence Margaret, fearing that her discovery of his secrets would ruin him. But Margaret had anticipated his betrayal and had prepared a way to ensure that her voice would be heard even after death. With the evidence in hand, Nora presented her findings to the authorities, sparking a renewed investigation. The truth about Margaret's death came to light, revealing not only Charles Ashton's guilt, but also the depth of corruption that had pervaded Alderwick for generations. The case was finally closed, and Margaret Carraway's spirit found peace. After the investigation was over, Nora returned to the manor one last time. The air felt different now, as though a weight had been lifted. The echoes of the past no longer felt threatening, instead they were whispers of thanks. As she stood in the grand hall, Nora whispered, "Rest now, Margaret." And as the moon shone over the manor, she could have sworn she heard a soft, satisfied sigh. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the haunting history of Willow Creek Manor. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Storyline Collectives for more chilling tales and unsolved mysteries. We'd love to hear what you think. Do you believe Margaret's spirit was finally set free? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. On Christmas Eve, 1945, in the small town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, a tragic and mysterious event unfolded that would haunt one family for decades. The Sauter family was well known in their community. George and Jenny Sauter were Italian immigrants who had built a life for themselves and their 10 children. The family lived in a 2-story wood frame house on the outskirts of town. That Christmas Eve, the Sauters were celebrating together. Presents were exchanged, laughter filled the home, and the children were excited for the magic of Christmas morning. Around 10 p.m., Jenny told her younger children it was time for bed. 5 of them stayed up later than usual: Maurice 14, Martha 12, Louis 9, Jenny 8, and Betty 5. George, Jenny, and their younger children went to bed upstairs, while their eldest son John, 23, and George Jr., 16, had already retired for the night after a long day working with their father. At around 1 a.m., Jenny was awakened by a strange noise, a thud followed by a rolling sound on the roof. She dismissed it and tried to go back to sleep, but within minutes she smelled smoke. Rushing out of bed, she found that George's office, located on the ground floor, was engulfed in flames. She screamed for her husband and children. George, Jenny, and 4 of their children managed to escape, but the 5 children who had stayed up late were nowhere to be found. The family frantically searched for a way to rescue them. George broke a window, slicing his arm in the process, and tried to climb back inside, but the flames were too intense. The family's attempts to get help were thwarted at every turn. The phone line was mysteriously dead, so one of the children ran to a neighbor's house to call the fire department. The neighbor's call went unanswered for hours. Meanwhile, George's ladder, which was always propped against the house, was missing. He tried to use his trucks to climb to the upper windows, but neither vehicle would start, despite being in good working order the day before. By the time the fire department arrived, nearly 8 hours later, the Sauter home had been reduced to ashes. The surviving family members were devastated, but their grief soon turned to confusion. Investigators initially claimed that the 5 missing children had perished in the fire, their bodies completely consumed by the flames. However, this explanation didn't sit right with George and Jenny. First, no remains were found in the ashes, even though bones and teeth are typically left behind in house fires. Second, an employee of the local crematorium told Jenny that even after burning a body for 2 hours at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, bones would remain. The Sauter house fire had lasted only 45 minutes. The family began to suspect foul play. They recalled strange incidents leading up to the fire. A man had visited the house a few months earlier, trying to sell life insurance. When George declined, the man allegedly threatened him, saying his house would go up in smoke, and his children would pay for his criticisms of Mussolini. Another visitor had warned George about faulty wiring, but an inspection of the house had found no issues. On the night of the fire, Jenny also remembered hearing footsteps on the roof and a loud noise, possibly an incendiary device. In the weeks and months following the fire, the Sauters received cryptic tips and sightings. A woman claimed she saw the children peering out of a passing car while the fire raged. Another woman, working at a tourist stop, said she served breakfast to 5 children who matched their descriptions, accompanied by 2 strange men. Years later, George and Jenny found a photograph of a young girl in a magazine. The resemblance to their daughter Betty was uncanny. They also received a letter containing a photograph of a man who looked strikingly like their son Louis, now an adult. The letter was postmarked from Kentucky but had no return address. On the back of the photo were the words, Louis Sauter, I love brother Frankie, a lil boys, A90132 or 35. The Sauters never stopped searching for their children. They erected a billboard along a busy highway near their home, displaying the children's photographs and offering a $10,000 reward for information. The billboard remained a fixture for decades, a haunting reminder of the mystery. Over the years, theories have ranged from kidnapping by organized crime to an attempt to silence George for his outspoken political views. Some believe the children were taken to Italy, while others think they were raised under assumed identities. Despite numerous leads and countless hours of investigation, the truth remains elusive. George passed away in 1969 and Jenny in 1989, never knowing what happened to their 5 children. The surviving Sauter siblings have continued to seek answers, but time has obscured the details of that fateful night. The vanishing of the Sauter children remains one of the most perplexing, unsolved mysteries in American history. Was it an accident, a calculated act of vengeance, or something even more sinister? We may never know. But as long as their story is told, the Sauter children will not be forgotten. If you enjoyed this story and want to uncover more eerie and unsolved mysteries, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us here at the Storyline Collectives for your next chilling tale.
Here's a true crime mystery that continues to baffle investigators and amateur sleuths alike: the disappearance of Maura Murray in 2004. It's a story full of strange clues, conflicting evidence, and unanswered questions, earning it a place among the most puzzling cases in modern history. On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, vanished under circumstances that have since become the subject of countless theories. Earlier that day, Maura emailed her professors and workplace, claiming there had been a death in her family and that she needed time off. This turned out to be untrue. No family death had occurred. She packed her belongings, including clothes, toiletries, school books, and personal items, into her car, withdrew $280 from an ATM, bought a large amount of alcohol, and set off on a drive. Her ultimate destination? Unknown. At 7:27 p.m., Maura's black 1996 Saturn crashed on a rural road in Haverhill, New Hampshire, near the White Mountains. A local resident heard the crash and called 911. Another neighbor, a school bus driver named Butch Atwood, stopped to offer help. Maura declined, claiming she had already called for roadside assistance. However, no such call was ever made. When police arrived 10 minutes later, Maura was gone. Her car was locked, and her belongings, including the alcohol she had purchased, were still inside. The only things missing were her cell phone, wallet, and keys. There was no sign of a struggle, no footprints in the snow, and no clear indication of where she went. Maura's disappearance immediately raised red flags. She was described as responsible and highly organized, yet her actions leading up to her vanishing were erratic. For example, her dorm room was found packed up, as if she planned to leave for good. But why? In the days following the crash, searches of the surrounding woods and interviews with locals turned up nothing. Cadaver dogs failed to detect the body. A week later, Maura's father, Fred Murray, appeared on national news, pleading for help in finding his daughter. Despite intensive efforts, no solid leads emerged. However, small details began to paint a murky picture. Days before her disappearance, Maura had been caught using a stolen credit card. She had also been involved in a minor car accident in her father's vehicle. The night before she disappeared, Maura received a phone call that left her visibly upset. She didn't tell anyone what the call was about. Witnesses later reported seeing a red pickup truck near the crash site around the time of her disappearance. Police never identified the driver. Maura Murray's case has inspired countless theories, some more plausible than others. The first theory is that Maura planned her disappearance to start a new life. Her packed dorm room, fabricated family emergency, and cash withdrawal suggest preparation. However, no trace of her has ever surfaced. No sightings, no financial activity, nothing. Others think Maura wandered into the snowy wilderness after the crash, perhaps intoxicated or disoriented, and succumbed to the elements. But despite extensive searches, her body was never found. The most sinister theory is that Maura was abducted or harmed by someone who happened upon her after the crash. The mysterious red truck and the absence of her belongings lend weight to this idea. Some speculate Maura was meeting someone in New Hampshire, perhaps a boyfriend or acquaintance. Her behavior suggests she was fleeing from something or someone. Conspiracy theorists argue that local authorities may have mishandled the case, either intentionally or through incompetence. Some even suggest a cover-up, though there's no hard evidence to support this claim. Maura's family continues to search for answers. Over the years, online communities have dissected every detail of her disappearance, analyzing phone records, timelines, and maps of the area. The case has been featured on podcasts, documentaries, and even books, but no definitive answers have emerged. In 2019, there was a potential breakthrough. A human bone fragment was discovered near the crash site. However, testing revealed it did not belong to Maura. Today, Maura's disappearance remains one of the most enduring mysteries in true crime. For every question answered, new ones arise, leaving her family and the public searching for closure.
On a quiet evening in Beverly Hills, August 20th, 1989, the lives of Jose and Kitty Menendez were tragically cut short in their luxurious mansion. The shocking case that unfolded would grip the nation, revealing a web of family secrets, wealth, and unimaginable betrayal. This is the story of the Menendez brothers. Jose Menendez, a wealthy entertainment executive, was known for his relentless ambition. He had worked his way up from humble beginnings in Cuba, eventually becoming a prominent figure in Hollywood. His wife, Kitty, was a former beauty queen turned homemaker, devoted to raising their two sons, Lyle and Eric. From the outside, the Menendez family appeared to embody the American dream, but behind closed doors, tension simmered. Jose was reportedly a domineering father, and the family dynamic was far from perfect. The brothers, Lyle and Eric, grew up in a world of privilege, attending elite schools and living a lifestyle most could only dream of. On that fateful August night, police responded to a 911 call from the Menendez mansion. Lyle's panicked voice on the call revealed the shocking news. His parents had been shot. The scene was gruesome. Jose and Kitty were found in the family's living room with multiple gunshot wounds. It initially appeared to be a botched robbery. But investigators quickly noted inconsistencies in the brothers' accounts and the crime scene. Despite their outward grief, Lyle and Eric's behavior raised suspicions. Within days of their parents' deaths, the brothers began spending extravagantly, purchasing luxury items, sports cars, and even opening a restaurant. Months later, the pressure mounted when Eric confessed to a therapist that he and Lyle were responsible for their parents' deaths. This confession led to their arrest in March 1990. As the trial began, the nation was captivated, not just by the brutal nature of the crime, but by the brothers' defense strategy. Their defense revealed shocking allegations. The brothers claimed they had endured years of physical and psychological abuse at the hands of their father, Jose. They argued that their actions were driven by fear and desperation, believing their parents were planning to kill them to cover up the abuse. The Menendez brothers' trials were some of the first to be broadcast on national television, drawing widespread attention. Public opinion was divided. Were they victims of horrific abuse or manipulative killers driven by greed? The first trials, held separately for each brother, ended in mistrials as jurors struggled to reach a unanimous verdict. However, a second trial in 1996 led to both brothers being convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Even decades later, the Menendez case remains a subject of intense debate. Some see it as a chilling example of greed and entitlement, while others argue that the brothers were victims of unimaginable trauma. The case has inspired books, documentaries, and TV dramas, keeping the story alive in popular culture. In recent years, a resurgence of interest in the case, fueled by TikTok and social media, has led some to reconsider the brothers' claims of abuse. In 2023, new evidence surfaced that sparked renewed calls for a review of their convictions. The Menendez brothers' case is a haunting reminder of the complexities of family dynamics and the devastating consequences of unchecked pain. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Was justice served, or is there more to the story? Maya Kowalski was just 9 years old when she began experiencing inexplicable symptoms. Severe pain racked her body, and she was unable to walk without assistance. Her parents, Beata and Jack Kowalski, were desperate to find answers. After countless doctors and inconclusive tests, the family's search for help led them to a diagnosis: complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS, a rare and debilitating condition that often leaves its sufferers in chronic pain. CRPS is sometimes called the suicide disease due to the unbearable pain it causes. Beata, a trained nurse, dedicated herself to understanding the condition and advocating for her daughter. She researched treatments, consulted specialists, and found a promising solution: ketamine therapy. While controversial, this treatment showed significant improvement in Maya's condition, allowing her moments of relief from her otherwise relentless pain. A visit to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in October 2016. Maya's pain intensified to an alarming degree. The Kowalskis rushed her to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg, Florida, hoping for immediate care. Instead of receiving support, their lives were thrown into turmoil. The medical staff questioned the CRPS diagnosis and expressed concerns that Maya might be a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a rare psychological disorder where a caregiver fabricates or induces illness in a child for attention or sympathy. The hospital's suspicions grew as Beata passionately advocated for ketamine treatment, which many staff members were unfamiliar with. They believed her persistence was evidence of medical abuse rather than a mother fighting for her child's life. Soon, the hospital contacted the Florida Department of Children and Families, DCF, and within days, Maya was taken into state custody. The Kowalski family torn apart. The hospital placed a no-contact order between Maya and her parents, leaving the young girl isolated and confused. Beata was devastated. She had spent every waking moment caring for Maya, and now she was being accused of harming her. Jack Kowalski fought tirelessly to reunite his family, but the legal system was slow and unforgiving. Weeks turned into months as Maya remained in the hospital under state supervision. During this time, Beata's mental health began to deteriorate. She felt powerless against a system that seemed determined to paint her as an unfit mother. Her attempts to prove Maya's diagnosis and the legitimacy of her treatment were dismissed. Beata's once strong spirit was broken by the weight of the accusations and the separation from her daughter. A tragic turn on January 7, 2017, just 3 months after Maya was taken into custody. Beata Kowalski died by taking her own life. In her final note, she pleaded for the family to continue fighting for Maya and to clear her name. Beata's death sent shockwaves through the case, raising questions about the hospital's actions and the system that had failed the Kowalskis. Maya was eventually released from state custody and returned to her family, but the damage was done. Beata's absence was a void that could never be filled, and the trauma of their separation left deep scars. Seeking justice, in the wake of Beata's death, the Kowalski family launched a legal battle against Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. They alleged that the hospital had overstepped its authority, misdiagnosed Maya, and caused irreparable harm to their family. The case gained national attention, bringing CRPS and medical custody disputes into the spotlight. The Kowalskis' fight was not just about their own loss, but about preventing other families from enduring similar tragedies. They wanted accountability for the hospital's actions and systemic change to protect parents and children in medical crises. The documentary's impact when Netflix released Take Care of Maya, it brought the Kowalski family's story to millions around the world. The documentary highlighted the flaws in the medical and legal systems, sparking conversations about patient advocacy, parental rights, and the treatment of rare conditions like CRPS. Viewers were moved by Maya's resilience and the love her family shared, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Beata's story, in particular, resonated with audiences, serving as a powerful reminder of the need for compassion and understanding in healthcare. A legacy of love today, the Kowalski family continues to honor Beata's memory by raising awareness about CRPS and advocating for systemic reforms. Maya, now older, carries forward her mother's legacy, sharing her story to help others navigate the challenges of rare medical conditions. The Kowalskis' journey is a testament to the enduring power of love and the human spirit's capacity to persevere. While their pain is undeniable, their courage in sharing their story has inspired countless others to speak up and fight for justice. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Here at the Storyline Collectives, we believe every story deserves to be told, especially the ones that remind us of the strength it takes to overcome life's darkest moments. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Storyline Collectives. If you're drawn to eerie true crime stories, unsolved mysteries, and spine-tingling hauntings, you're in the right place. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our latest videos. Now, let's dive into the story of the Sally House. a place that has fascinated paranormal enthusiasts for decades. The Sallie House, located in Atchison, Kansas, is one of the most infamous haunted sites in the United States. Its dark reputation is built on decades of reports and investigations that reveal a home filled with unexplained occurrences and an unsettling history. The story begins in the 1990s when Tony and Deborah Pickman moved into the house eager to start a new chapter of their lives. The couple soon discovered that the house was anything but ordinary. It wasn't long before they experienced their first unsettling events. Cold spots that seemed to move through the rooms, doors opening and closing by themselves, and strange noises echoing in the night. But these were only the beginning. Over time, the Pickmans reported far more terrifying experiences. Items were found displaced, objects seemed to be moved with force, and their pets acted as if they were interacting with an unseen presence. And then there were the physical signs, scratches appearing on Tony's skin with no clear source, as if the unseen entity were reaching out to make its presence known. The stories of the Sallie House are rooted in its past. According to local legends, the house once served as a medical practice in the late 1800s, where a young girl named Sally is said to have died of an illness. This tragic event is believed to have left behind the spirit of the young girl, bound to the house and unable to find peace. The name Sally has become synonymous with the hauntings, and her presence is described as both mischievous and malevolent. The Pickmans were not the only ones who experienced the house's chilling energy. Paranormal investigators, researchers, and ghost hunters have all visited the Sallie House, contributing to the lore and cementing its place as a true mystery. These investigations have produced countless accounts, including EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, recordings, video footage, and testimonies from those who have felt the full force of the house's power. Some investigators claim to have seen shadowy figures moving through the halls, while others report feeling a sudden and inexplicable sense of dread that consumes them when they enter certain rooms. One of the most compelling stories comes from the Pickmans' experiences with the spirit of Sally. They claimed that she would play with their belongings, leaving toys activated and scattered around the house. The strange activity was not confined to playful tricks. It escalated to violent episodes. Tony Pickman reported being pushed, slapped, and even scratched by an unseen force. The scratches would appear in the shape of 3 distinct marks, as if something was clawing at him. In interviews, Tony shared how the intensity of these experiences made him question his sanity, while Deborah spoke of the fear that grew with each passing day. They were trapped in a cycle of fascination and terror, never knowing what might come next. Paranormal teams, including those from popular TV shows like Ghost Adventures, have investigated the Sallie House, bringing their own equipment and expertise to uncover the truth behind the disturbances. These investigations have revealed a wide range of evidence: unexplained noises, sudden drops in temperature, and even disembodied voices responding to questions. The house itself has become a character in the story, with each room holding its own secrets, each hallway carrying whispers of what once was. Over the years, the Sallie House has gained a reputation as a place that not only haunts but also draws people in, challenging them to uncover its mysteries. Some believe that Sally's spirit is playful and seeking attention, while others claim she is vengeful, using her energy to punish those who come too close. The contradictory nature of the stories has fueled theories ranging from psychological explanations to more supernatural interpretations. Did Sally die under tragic circumstances and become trapped in the house? Or is there something more sinister lurking, feeding off the fear of those who enter? The true story of the Sallie House is lost in the mists of time, obscured by the layers of folklore, personal experiences, and speculation. But what remains undeniable is the impact it has had on all who have dared to venture inside. The house has left behind a legacy, an indelible mark on those who have faced its presence, and a deep curiosity that has spurred countless stories and investigations. As we reflect on the tale of the Sallie House, we're reminded that the line between reality and the supernatural is often thinner than we think. The stories of the house continue to intrigue and unsettle, drawing us into a world where the unknown reigns supreme. What do you think is the true story behind the Sallie House? Is it the spirit of a young girl trapped in the past, or is there something far more mysterious at work? Thank you for joining us on this journey into the haunting history of the Sallie House. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Storyline Collectives for more chilling tales, true crime, and unsolved mysteries. And we'd love to hear from you. Share your theories and thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. The story of JonBenet Ramsey, a mystery that still haunts. Welcome to the Storyline Collectives, where we explore the most chilling and intriguing real-life cases. If you're new here, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. Now let's delve into one of the most baffling, unsolved cases in modern history, the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. On the morning of December 26, 1996, in Boulder, Colorado, Patsy Ramsey made a frantic 911 call reporting that her 6-year-old daughter, JonBenet Ramsey, was missing. She told the dispatcher that a ransom note demanding $118,000 had been found in their home. The note, unusually long and bizarrely detailed, claimed to be from a small foreign faction and warned against contacting the authorities. It was written on paper from inside the Ramsey home, raising immediate questions. When police arrived, they quickly noticed inconsistencies in the crime scene. Despite standard protocol for a missing person case, friends and family were allowed to roam through the house, potentially contaminating evidence. Hours later, JonBenet's lifeless body was discovered in the basement by her father, John Ramsey. She had been strangled with a garrote fashioned from a broken paintbrush and had suffered a skull fracture. A piece of duct tape covered her mouth and her wrists had been loosely bound. The combination of brutality and staging baffled investigators. Who was JonBenet Ramsey? JonBenet Ramsey was a child beauty queen known for her dazzling stage presence and charm. She participated in numerous pageants, often dressed in elaborate costumes and performing well beyond her years. Her glamorous, heavily photographed life as a pageant star became a focal point of media scrutiny after her death, with some suggesting that the pageant culture had made her a target. The Ramsey family was affluent and prominent in Boulder society. Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen herself, was deeply involved in JonBenet's pageant career. John Ramsey was a successful businessman. Together, they presented an image of a perfect, loving family, an image that shattered under the weight of suspicion and public scrutiny. The investigation into JonBenet's murder was plagued by missteps and controversy. From the outset, the police and district attorney's office had differing theories, creating tension between law enforcement and prosecutors. The crime scene had been poorly secured, and critical evidence may have been lost. Initially, suspicion fell on JonBenet's parents and her older brother Burke, who was 9 years old at the time. Critics pointed to the peculiar ransom note and the unusual behavior of the family in the hours following the discovery of her body. The Ramseys, for their part, maintained their innocence and publicly criticized the investigation. They hired a high-profile legal team and conducted their own media campaign to clear their names. One of the most contentious pieces of evidence was the ransom note. Handwriting experts analyzed it extensively, but the results were inconclusive. Patsy Ramsey's handwriting bore similarities to the note, but not enough to definitively identify her as the author. Moreover, the demand for $118,000, a figure almost identical to John Ramsey's recent bonus, seemed oddly specific. Another key point of contention was the DNA evidence. Cement stains on JonBenet's clothing contained DNA that did not match any member of the Ramsey family. This led some investigators to focus on the theory of an intruder. However, skeptics argued that the DNA could have been from secondary transfer and wasn't necessarily linked to the killer. Theories over the years, two primary theories have emerged. The intruder theory. This theory posits that someone outside the family broke into the house, possibly through a basement window, and committed the crime. Supporters of this theory point to the unidentified DNA, as well as a partial shoe print found near JonBenet's body that did not match anyone in the household. The family theory. Critics of the Ramsey family argue that the crime scene appeared staged, pointing to the ransom note and the condition of JonBenet's body. Some believe the family's behavior after the murder, including hiring attorneys and refusing initial police interviews, was suspicious. Over time, additional suspects have been considered, including a local man with a history of mental illness and false confessions. In 2006, John Mark Carr confessed to the murder but was ultimately dismissed as a suspect when his DNA did not match the evidence. The legacy JonBenet Ramsey's murder has left a lasting impact on true crime enthusiasts, journalists, and investigators. Despite advancements in forensic science and countless documentaries, books, and podcasts, the case remains unsolved. In 2008, the Boulder District Attorney formally exonerated the Ramsey family, citing the unidentified DNA evidence. However, this decision did little to quell public debate. The case continues to inspire speculation, with many hoping that advances in technology might one day uncover the truth. Thank you for joining us as we revisited this haunting case. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest stories. What do you think happened to JonBenet Ramsey? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. The Storyline Collectives presents The Chilling Case of Luigi Mangione. Welcome back, detectives! Today on the Storyline Collectives, we unravel the tragic and shocking case of Luigi Mangione, a promising app developer whose descent into obsession led to the fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This is a story where innovation, ambition, and darkness collide. The case unfolds. On December 4th, 2024, Manhattan's bustling streets bore witness to a tragic and targeted attack. Brian Thompson, a well-known figure in the healthcare industry, was fatally shot near his residence. The alleged shooter, Luigi Mangione, fled the scene but was captured after a 6-day manhunt. Mangione, a 26-year-old with a stellar academic record, appeared to have a bright future. A valedictorian from a Baltimore private school, he went on to develop expertise in robotics, machine learning, and coding. He even founded a game development club during his time at the University of Pennsylvania. But behind his professional success lay a darker side, a fascination with systems of power and possibly a growing resentment. The murder weapon, a ghost gun, added a chilling layer to the case. These untraceable firearms are often crafted using 3D printing technology, making them especially dangerous in the wrong hands. Mangione's technical skill allowed him to assemble such a weapon, and investigators suspect it was specifically designed for this act. Witnesses described Mangione as composed during the attack, leading authorities to believe the act was meticulously planned. The arrest and fallout, Mangione was apprehended in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was found after police followed surveillance footage and tips from the public. His background painted a complex portrait, a tech genius with a reclusive personality and interests that included controversial literature like the Unabomber Manifesto. The aftermath of this tragedy reverberates through the healthcare industry and beyond. United Healthcare released a statement mourning Thompson's loss, thanking law enforcement for their swift response. Meanwhile, the case has sparked debates about ghost guns and their role in violent crimes. The bigger picture, as the investigation continues, questions remain about Mangione's motives. Was this a calculated act of vengeance, or the culmination of personal struggles? And how can society address the dangers of untraceable firearms in an age of advanced technology? Love unraveling true crime mysteries? Don't forget to subscribe to the Storyline Collectives. Join us as we explore chilling cases, twisted tales, and the stories behind the headlines. Drop a comment with your thoughts on this case, or suggest a story for us to cover next. Let's solve these mysteries together.
Welcome to the Storyline Collectives, where chilling tales and true crime come to life. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on more captivating content. Now let's begin. Ted Bundy is one of the most infamous names in the history of American true crime. Born on November 24, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont, Bundy's early life gave little indication of the darkness that would define him. Raised by his grandparents under the belief that they were his parents, Bundy grew up thinking his biological mother was his older sister, a revelation that some speculate deeply affected him. Despite this, Bundy's childhood was largely unremarkable to outsiders, marked by intelligence, good looks, and a polite demeanor. Bundy's outward charm and intelligence masked a deeply troubled psyche. As a young adult, he struggled to find a stable direction in life. Though he attended college and showed promise as a law student, he frequently dropped out and lacked a clear path. By his mid-20s, Bundy's charm and manipulative abilities began to evolve into something far more sinister. In the early 1970s, women began to disappear across multiple states, including Washington, Oregon, and Utah. The disappearances shared chilling similarities. Young women would vanish without a trace, often after last being seen with a man who fit Bundy's description. Many survivors and witnesses described him as a handsome, well-dressed man who often feigned an injury or disability to gain sympathy. Using props like a sling or crutches, Bundy would ask for help carrying items to his car, a Volkswagen Beetle. Once a woman offered assistance, she would be overpowered and abducted. Bundy's reign of terror escalated as he became more confident and bold. By 1974, authorities in Washington and Oregon began connecting the dots between the disappearances. Witnesses reported seeing a man named Ted driving a Beetle near the crime scenes. Despite these leads, Bundy's ability to charm those around him allowed him to evade serious suspicion for years. Behind the scenes, Bundy led a double life. To many, he appeared to be a successful, charismatic young man with a bright future. He even had a long-term girlfriend who was unaware of his dark secret. This facade made his eventual unmasking all the more shocking to those who knew him. In August 1975, Bundy was pulled over by police in Utah. Inside his car, authorities found suspicious items, including handcuffs, a crowbar, and a mask. Though initially arrested on a charge of evading police, investigators soon linked Bundy to several unsolved crimes. As evidence mounted, Bundy's web of lies began to unravel. He was eventually charged with kidnapping in Utah, but this was only the tip of the iceberg. Even while in custody, Bundy's manipulative nature and cunning intellect came into play. In 1977, he escaped from a courthouse library by jumping from a second-story window while acting as his own attorney. After weeks on the run, he was recaptured, only to escape again later that year by sawing through the ceiling of his jail cell. This second escape led him to Florida, where he committed some of his most heinous acts. In January 1978, Bundy broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University, attacking 4 women and killing 2. The brutal nature of the crime shocked the nation and marked the beginning of Bundy's downfall. Shortly after, he was apprehended in Pensacola, Florida, while driving a stolen car. This time, there would be no escape. Bundy's trial in 1979 became a media spectacle, as it was one of the first to be televised. Acting as his own attorney, Bundy displayed the same charm and arrogance that had helped him evade capture for so long. Despite his efforts, the evidence against him was overwhelming. He was convicted and sentenced to death for the murders at the Chi Omega house. A separate trial later added another death sentence for the murder of a 12-year-old girl. During his years on death row, Bundy granted interviews and began to confess to his crimes. He eventually admitted to killing over 30 women, though the true number remains unknown. Bundy's execution on January 24, 1989 was met with a mix of relief and morbid fascination. Crowds gathered outside the prison, cheering as the news of his death spread. What sets Bundy apart from other criminals in history is not just the sheer number of his victims, but the calculated and manipulative nature of his crimes. His story serves as a chilling reminder of how evil can hide behind a mask of normalcy. Bundy's case continues to captivate true crime enthusiasts and psychologists alike, offering a grim insight into the mind of a predator. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of history's most chilling cases. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Storyline Collectives for more true crime stories and haunting tales. Until next time, stay safe.
The Long Island Serial Killer, a tale of mystery and misfortune. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Storyline Collectives. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on more mind-bending stories that leave you questioning everything. Today, we're diving into one of the most chilling and baffling unsolved mysteries in the world of true crime, the Long Island Serial Killer. This case has been haunting investigators for over a decade, with no answers, no closure, and more questions than we ever thought possible. If you love stories that leave you on the edge of your seat, then you're in the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's dive deep into one of the most disturbing cases of modern times. It was December 11, 2010, when the quiet, suburban landscape of Long Island, New York, was shattered forever. Suffolk County Police were called to investigate what was thought to be a routine missing persons case. But what they uncovered would send shockwaves across the country. On the outskirts of a heavily wooded area near Ocean Parkway, a young woman's body was discovered. She had been discarded carelessly, her body wrapped in burlap. This was the first sign of something far darker than anyone could have imagined. A second body, that of a woman named Maureen Brainerd Barnes, was found nearby. And soon enough, more bodies began to surface, each one with a haunting similarity. They were all young women, all sex workers, and all had been discarded in the same isolated area along the Ocean Parkway. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that these were not isolated murders. No, these were part of a carefully executed pattern. The victims were found in a series of kill sites hidden away from the public eye, each one eerily close to the next. The victims were dumped in a stretch of land near Gilgo Beach, a remote area where no one would likely stumble upon them. The bodies didn't stop coming. As police combed the area further, they uncovered the remains of several more victims, all women, many of whom had been murdered years apart. But what remained even more puzzling was the complete lack of evidence linking the murders together until that fateful day in 2010. It soon became apparent that these weren't crimes of passion or random acts of violence. Whoever was behind them had carefully planned each murder, taking his time to cover his tracks and remain undetected for years. A pattern emerges. 2011. Investigators began to connect the dots. The women found were all linked by one common thread. They were all sex workers or had been involved in the sex trade. But what was the motive? Was this a revenge-fueled serial killer targeting women he believed to be disposable? Or was it something more chilling, a calculated hunt, like a predator stalking its prey? The killer's ability to remain unnoticed for so long raised suspicions. The remains were all found within a relatively small area, and it became clear that the person responsible had intimate knowledge of the land around Ocean Parkway. He knew where to go to evade detection, and he knew when the right time was to commit his crimes, at night when the area was secluded and quiet. Whoever the Long Island serial killer Lisk was, he had a cold, methodical approach to his actions. The case only grew more disturbing when investigators discovered that some of the victims, such as Melissa Barthelemy, had been contacted by the killer after their deaths. Phone calls were made from her phone to her family after her death, with a man's voice on the other end. These calls were believed to have been made by the killer himself, taunting the family and sending chilling messages. It was clear now. The killer wasn't just trying to evade capture. He was enjoying the game. The theories and suspects. As the investigation dragged on, the Suffolk County Police Department received an increasing number of tips, theories, and suspects. A few names stood out, but there was never enough evidence to make an arrest. Some theories suggested that the killer might have been someone with law enforcement ties or someone in a position of authority who had the knowledge and power to cover his tracks. There were also speculations about a possible connection to other unsolved crimes in the area, with some believing the killer might have been active for much longer than initially thought. One of the more popular theories involved a man named James Bissett, a former police officer and private investigator who became a subject of interest due to his behavior and suspicious connections to some of the victims. However, just like the other theories, no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to connect him to the murders. There's another theory that points to the possibility that the killer could be someone who frequented the area, perhaps even a member of the community who knew the women. This theory gained traction when it was revealed that some of the victims had been familiar with their killer's methods and perhaps even trusted him to a certain extent. The ongoing investigation, as the years passed, the case became more cold than hot. The killer seemed to be slipping further away from justice, and with each passing year, the chances of solving the case seemed to fade. That is, until 2020, when authorities released new details about the case and announced that they were still actively investigating. In 2020, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart revealed that they were revisiting old evidence, including DNA analysis and phone records, in hopes of finally catching the killer. New techniques, such as forensic genealogy, were also being used in attempts to trace the killer's identity through DNA matches in online databases. The hunt for the Long Island serial killer continues to this day, but the mystery remains unsolved. The enduring mystery, so what's next in this case? Will we ever find out the true identity of the Long Island serial killer? Or will this chilling mystery continue to elude justice? Every new detail that emerges only adds to the intrigue, but it also raises more questions. With each passing year, the victims' families continue to hold out hope, desperate for answers. But the question remains, will we ever know who did it? Will the killer be caught? Or will the Long Island serial killer remain a shadowy figure, lurking in the background of New York's history? We may never know, but as always, we'll keep following the trail, hoping that one day the truth will come to light. Now, we want to know what you think. Do you have any theories about the Long Island serial killer? Could there be a connection to other cases? Or maybe someone in the community was involved? Head over to the Storyline Collectives and leave a comment with your thoughts. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on all the latest updates and deep dives into the world of true crime. Until next time, keep questioning the unexplainable and let's keep unraveling the most haunting stories together.
Welcome to the Storyline Collectives. Before we dive into today's chilling true crime story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming tales. If you enjoy unraveling mysteries and exploring the darkest corners of humanity, you've come to the right place. Leave a comment with your thoughts on today's case, and let's get started. The disturbing case of Mel Ignato. In the heart of Louisville, Kentucky, a city known for its rolling landscapes and vibrant culture, a horrifying crime unfolded that shocked the nation and remains a haunting example of how justice can fail. This is the story of Mel and the brutal murder of Brenda Schaefer, a tale of betrayal, manipulation, and chilling revelations. A relationship turns dark. Brenda Schaefer was a 36-year-old woman described as kind, caring, and deeply loved by her family and friends. She had been dating Mel, a man in his early 50s, for nearly 2 years. On the surface, Mel appeared to be a charming and successful businessman, but beneath this facade lay a dark and controlling personality. Brenda's relationship with Mel was far from idyllic. Friends and family later recounted that Brenda had expressed her discomfort with Mel's controlling nature and had made plans to end the relationship. Unfortunately, she never got the chance. The night Brenda disappeared on September 24, 1988, Brenda told her family she was going to meet Mel to return some of his belongings. It was the last time they saw her alive. When Brenda failed to return home, her family reported her missing. Suspicion immediately fell on Mel, but with no concrete evidence, police could only speculate. The investigation and trial, as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered disturbing evidence that pointed directly to Mel. His former girlfriend, Mary Ann Shore, came forward with chilling information. Shore revealed that she had assisted Mel in planning Brenda's murder and had even allowed him to use her home to carry out the crime. Shore's testimony painted a horrifying picture. Mel had lured Brenda to Shore's house under the pretense of reconciliation. Once there, he tied her up, tortured her, and ultimately killed her while Shore photographed the ordeal. Despite the gruesome details, prosecutors faced a significant hurdle. There were no photographs, and much of the evidence was circumstantial. The trial commenced in 1991, with the prosecution relying heavily on Shore's testimony. Mel's defense team argued that Shore was lying to cover her own involvement. In a shocking turn of events, the jury found Mel not guilty, citing insufficient evidence. A shocking discovery. Months after the trial, new evidence emerged that turned the case on its head. The new owners of Mary Ann Shore's former home were renovating when they discovered a hidden air vent containing undeveloped rolls of film. The photographs on the film confirmed everything Shore had described. Brenda's final moments captured in agonizing detail. With this undeniable evidence, Mel's guilt was finally confirmed. However, because of the constitutional protection against double jeopardy, he could not be retried for Brenda's murder. Partial justice. Though he escaped punishment for murder, Mel did face consequences. Federal prosecutors charged him with perjury for lying during the trial, and he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. For Brenda's family, this was a hollow victory. Their daughter's killer would never face true justice for his crime. Mel's final years after serving his sentence, Mel returned to Louisville. He lived a relatively quiet life until his death in 2008. In a morbid twist of fate, he died from an accidental fall in his home, landing on a glass coffee table. The shards of glass severed an artery, and he bled to death. A grim ending for a man whose life was marked by violence and deceit. The legacy of the case. The case of Mel remains a stark reminder of the flaws in the justice system. It highlights the challenges of prosecuting crimes based on circumstantial evidence and the devastating impact such failures have on victims' families. Brenda Schaefer's story continues to resonate, serving as a call for vigilance and reform. For those who knew her, she is remembered not for the gruesome details of her death, but for the kindness and warmth she brought into the lives of those around her. Thank you for joining us as we uncovered the tragic story of Brenda Schaefer and the chilling actions of Mel. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Storyline Collectives for more stories that delve into the depths of human nature. Share your thoughts below. Do you think justice was served? What reforms do you think could prevent cases like this from slipping through the cracks? Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. In a quiet Florida neighborhood in early 2020, Sarah Boone lived a seemingly ordinary life with her partner, Jorge Torres Jr. On the surface, their relationship appeared like any other, filled with ups and downs, laughter, and arguments. However, as is often the case, appearances can be deceiving. Behind closed doors, Sarah and Jorge had a volatile relationship. They loved each other deeply, but often found themselves caught in cycles of conflict that strained their bond. Friends and neighbors would occasionally hear raised voices but thought little of it. Arguments happen after all. What happened one fateful evening would turn their lives upside down and leave a lasting impression on everyone who heard the story. It began as an ordinary evening. Sarah and Jorge decided to spend time together at home, enjoying drinks and playing games. According to Sarah, they were in good spirits, laughing and joking around. At some point, they decided to play a game involving a suitcase, a game that would have unthinkable consequences. As part of their playful antics, Jorge climbed into a large suitcase. Sarah, thinking it was funny, zipped it closed. They laughed at the absurdity of the situation, recording some of the moment on Sarah's phone. According to Sarah, it was all in good fun, just a harmless joke between two people who knew each other well. But as time passed, things took a dark turn. Jorge began calling out from inside the suitcase, saying he couldn't breathe. Sarah claimed she thought he was joking, that his pleas were part of the game. She went to bed, leaving Jorge zipped inside the suitcase, assuming he would be fine. The next morning, Sarah woke up and went to check on Jorge. What she found left her in shock. Jorge was unresponsive inside the suitcase. She immediately called 911, telling the dispatcher that it had all been a terrible accident. She explained that they had been drinking, playing games, and that she never intended for anything bad to happen. When paramedics arrived, it was clear that Jorge had passed away. The playful moment had turned into a tragic accident, or so it seemed. As police began their investigation, they discovered troubling details. Videos recorded on Sarah's phone showed Jorge's desperate attempts to escape the suitcase. His muffled cries for help and Sarah's responses, which seemed dismissive, painted a different picture than the one she initially described. These recordings raised questions about whether this was truly an accident. Investigators also looked into the couple's history, uncovering evidence of past arguments and issues that complicated the narrative. Sarah was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. She maintained her innocence, insisting that she never intended to harm Jorge. Her defense argued that it was a tragic mistake, but the evidence suggested a pattern of negligence and disregard for Jorge's well-being. The case of Sarah Boone is a sobering reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control. It shows the importance of taking responsibility for our actions and being mindful of how we treat those we care about. While it's easy to dismiss small moments as insignificant, they can sometimes lead to irreversible consequences. For those in relationships, the story also highlights the importance of addressing conflicts and seeking help if there are patterns of unhealthy behavior. Sarah and Jorge's story might have had a different ending if they had sought support or worked to resolve their issues in a healthier way. Today, Sarah Boone awaits trial for the events of that night. Jorge's family and friends mourn the loss of a man whose life ended far too soon. The suitcase incident is not just a story about a tragic accident. It's a cautionary tale about the weight of our decisions and how fleeting moments can change lives forever. By sharing stories like this, we can reflect on our own relationships, choices, and the ways we navigate conflicts. May this tale serve as a reminder to approach life and those around us with care, respect, and understanding. Enter
The Pascagoula abduction, taken from the earth in the fall of 1973, on an otherwise ordinary October night, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, two co-workers, headed out for a peaceful evening of fishing along the Pascagoula River in Mississippi. Charles, 42 years old, was the experienced fisherman, while Calvin, only 19, was new to the hobby. They were there to unwind, to enjoy the calm rhythm of the water under a quiet night sky. But peace was the last thing they would find. As the pair stood on the riverbank, something happened that would forever alter their lives. Out of the darkness, a strange whirring sound broke the silence. A sudden blinding light bathed the area in an otherworldly glow. Calvin froze, overwhelmed by the sight before him, a metallic oval-shaped craft hovering just above the ground. Charles later described the air itself changing, as though electricity was alive in it. He recalled a surreal buzzing noise, loud and mechanical, as the object drew closer. Before either man could react, figures began to emerge from the craft. Calvin said he wanted to run, but his body refused to move. Charles felt the same, as if an invisible force had gripped them both. Three beings, grey and featureless, floated toward them. Their bodies were not like ours, with strange appendages instead of hands and movements that seemed mechanical yet fluid. Calvin's mind went blank as sheer panic overtook him. The beings reached out and, without a word, transported both men into the craft. Charles later shared harrowing details of what happened inside. He described being in a cold, metallic room illuminated by harsh, unnatural light. His body felt weightless, suspended, and helpless, as though he were being studied. He couldn't see Calvin, but sensed he wasn't alone. One of the beings seemed to scan him with a device, its touch leaving a chilling numbness. Calvin, meanwhile, said he remembered nothing at first, just overwhelming fear and the feeling of losing time. When the men were finally released, they found themselves back on the riverbank. Hours had passed, yet it felt like mere moments. The craft was gone, and the night was silent once again. Calvin was in shock, trembling uncontrollably, while Charles tried to comprehend what had happened. The two men sat in their car, too stunned to speak, before deciding to report the incident to the authorities. At first, the police were skeptical, as you might imagine. But something about the men's story was too consistent, too real to ignore. Both Charles and Calvin were interviewed separately and gave matching accounts. The sheriff even admitted that neither man appeared to be lying. They were clearly shaken, their terror unmistakable. Soon the story spread like wildfire. Newspapers picked up the bizarre encounter, and the Pascagoula abduction became one of the most famous alien abduction cases in history. Skeptics were quick to question the tale, but Charles and Calvin's accounts remained unshakable. They even agreed to undergo polygraph tests and hypnosis to recall suppressed memories, and the results only solidified their credibility. Something did happen that night, something beyond explanation. Calvin Parker, who initially wanted nothing to do with the spotlight, spent years avoiding the public eye. He spoke of nightmares, overwhelming fear, and the psychological toll the experience had taken on him. Charles Hickson, on the other hand, was determined to share the truth. He believed their story was evidence of a greater presence, one humanity might not be ready to face. Decades later, the Pascagoula abduction remains a cornerstone of alien encounter lore. Researchers, skeptics, and believers alike still discuss the case, analyzing every detail. What were those beings? Why were Charles and Calvin chosen? And what did the visitors want from them? The answers may forever remain a mystery. But the truth is, something extraordinary happened on the banks of the Pascagoula River that night. Whether you believe it or not, the men's terror was real. Their story stands as a chilling reminder that perhaps we are not alone. At the Storyline Collective, we don't just tell stories, we uncover the unknown. The missing, the unsolved, the unexplained, they're waiting for you. So, follow us, dive deep into the mysteries, and dare to question what lies beyond the veil of our reality. Because some stories refuse to rest, and some truths refuse to stay hidden.
Our story takes place in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, in the late 1800s, a time when life was simple, yet justice was often hard to come by. The tale is both chilling and unique because it's the only known case in the United States where a ghost testimony allegedly helped solve a murder. It begins in January 1897, when a young woman named Elva Zona Hester was found dead in her home. She had recently married a man named Erasmus Edward Shue, a blacksmith who was new to the town. Edward was the one who discovered Zona's body, claiming she had fallen ill the day before. Her death was officially ruled as everlasting faint, a vague term used when the cause was unknown. At her funeral, Edward's behavior raised eyebrows. He was overly emotional, refusing to let anyone get near Zona's body. He even placed a scarf around her neck, insisting it was her favorite, and demanded the casket be closed quickly. People whispered about how odd it all seemed, but there was no proof of foul play, at least not yet. Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster, was devastated by her daughter's sudden death. But grief soon turned into suspicion. Mary Jane believed Edward had something to do with it. Her suspicions deepened after she prayed for answers, and claimed that Zona's ghost appeared to her in 4 consecutive dreams. In these dreams, Zona's ghost told her mother that Edward had been abusive, controlling, and short-tempered. She revealed that on the day she died, Edward had flown into a rage and strangled her after an argument. To prove it, the ghost showed Mary Jane how her neck had been broken. Mary Jane was so convinced by these visions that she went to the local prosecutor, John Preston, and begged him to reopen the case. While skeptical at first, Preston decided to investigate further. Zona's body was exhumed for an autopsy, and to everyone's shock, the findings matched Mary Jane's account. Zona's neck was indeed broken, with bruises indicating she had been strangled. Edward was arrested and put on trial for murder. The prosecution built a strong case against him, citing his violent history and strange behavior at the funeral. While Mary Jane was careful not to mention the ghost during her testimony, the defense tried to discredit her by bringing it up, hoping to make her seem unreliable. However, the jury wasn't swayed by this tactic. After only an hour of deliberation, Edward was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Edward died a few years later, and the story of Zona's ghost became part of local folklore. To this day, many believe that her spirit sought justice from beyond the grave. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's a fascinating tale of mystery, perseverance, and a mother's love that transcended the veil between life and death. Thank you for joining us for another tale from the Storytime Collectives. If you've enjoyed this story, give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss another spine-chilling story.
Welcome to the Storyline Collective's channel, your go-to destination for gripping tales that captivate and intrigue. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. Let's dive into today's case. Karen Reed's story is one of love, tragedy, and legal controversy that has captivated the public and left many questioning what truly happened on that fateful night in January 2022. Karen, a respected financial analyst and professor from Mansfield, Massachusetts, was in a relationship with Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Their lives seemed picture-perfect until the events of one chilling winter evening turned their world upside down. On January 29, 2022, Karen and John attended a night out with friends. After spending time together at local bars, Karen drove John to the home of one of his police colleagues in Canton, Massachusetts. The details of what happened next remain hotly disputed. According to prosecutors, Karen, under the influence of alcohol, struck John with her SUV outside the colleague's home after an argument, leaving him fatally injured. They allege she left the scene without realizing the gravity of what had occurred. The following morning, Karen reportedly became concerned when John failed to return home. Together with a friend, she retraced her steps and found John's lifeless body outside the Canton residence. He had suffered significant blunt force trauma, and evidence later revealed that hypothermia also played a role in his tragic death. Karen was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, motor vehicle manslaughter while operating under the influence, and leaving the scene of a collision causing death. From the outset, she denied the allegations, maintaining her innocence. Her defense team presented an alternative theory, one that has fueled widespread debate and conspiracy claims. Karen's lawyers argued that John's injuries were not consistent with being struck by a car. Instead, they suggested he was attacked by a dog at the residence. The defense further alleged that the investigation was marred by a cover-up, potentially involving members of the Canton Police Department. They pointed to irregularities in the evidence collection process and raised questions about the lack of thorough scrutiny at the scene. The case took another twist when Karen's supporters began to rally behind her cause. Friends, family, and even strangers gathered at protests, claiming that Karen was being framed. They accused the police of protecting their own and shifting blame to Karen to avoid deeper scrutiny of their actions. Social media became a hotbed for debates, with hashtags and online groups dedicated to uncovering the truth about John O'Keefe's death. As the trial commenced in April 2024, the courtroom was packed with spectators and reporters eager to follow the proceedings. The prosecution presented evidence that they claimed linked Karen to the crime, including data from her SUV and traces of John's blood on the vehicle. The defense, however, highlighted inconsistencies and pointed to their dog attack theory as a plausible explanation for John's injuries. In July 2024, after months of intense testimony and deliberations, the trial ended in a mistrial. The jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict, leaving the case unresolved. While Karen's supporters celebrated this development as a step toward vindication, others viewed it as a frustrating delay in delivering justice for John O'Keefe. A retrial has been scheduled for January 2025, and the stakes remain high. As Karen awaits her day in court, the case continues to be a focal point for discussions about law enforcement accountability, the complexities of the legal system, and the enduring quest for truth. It's a story that has left an indelible mark on the community and will undoubtedly continue to unfold in the public eye. Thank you for joining us here at the Storyline Collective's channel. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who enjoy unraveling the mysteries of real-life events. The Delphi Murders, a story of bravery and tragedy. It was a quiet day in Delphi, Indiana, on February 13th, 2017, when best friends Liberty Libby German and Abigail Abby Williams decided to take a hike. The Monon High Bridge, part of a local trail system, was a popular spot, offering picturesque views of nature. But what started as an ordinary afternoon would quickly become a nightmare that left the entire community shaken. That day, Libby and Abby were dropped off by Libby's sister at around 1:35 p.m. The girls had planned to enjoy their day off school, exploring the trails and taking photos. Libby's Snapchat post at 2:07 p.m. showed Abby standing on the old railroad bridge. It was the last known sighting of the girls while they were still alive. When their families couldn't reach them later that evening, panic set in. A search party was formed, and the community rallied together. Tragically, the following day, the bodies of Libby and Abby were discovered in a wooded area near the trail, not far from the Monon High Bridge. What happened to the girls during those missing hours became the center of a mystery that persists to this day. Libby's heroism, capturing the killer. Though the crime itself was horrifying, what made this case even more compelling was Libby's quick thinking and bravery. In the moments before the tragedy, Libby used her phone to record a man who was following them on the trail. The video is blurry, showing a man in a blue jacket and jeans walking toward the girls. Even more chilling is the audio Libby captured. In a gruff voice, the man is heard saying, "Down the hill." This brief recording has become the cornerstone of the investigation. Law enforcement has praised Libby for her actions, believing she may have left behind the most crucial evidence needed to catch their killer. But despite this heroic act, the man in the video remains unidentified. The investigation twists and turns. In the days following the discovery of the girls' bodies, police worked tirelessly to gather evidence and follow leads. The video and audio clip were released to the public, alongside 2 composite sketches of potential suspects. The first sketch, released in 2017, depicted an older man. 2 years later, in 2019, authorities released a drastically different sketch of a younger man, stating it better reflected the person they believed responsible. The shift in focus created confusion and speculation among the public. Was there more than one suspect? Had the investigation taken a new direction? While police remained tight-lipped, they emphasized that the case was far from cold. Thousands of tips poured in, but none led to an arrest until 2022. A break in the case, the arrest of Richard Allen. In October 2022, a significant development shocked the small town of Delphi and true crime followers around the world. Richard Allen, a 50-year-old Delphi resident, was arrested and charged with the murders of Libby and Abby. Alan worked at a local CVS and had lived in the community for years. He was a familiar face to many, which made the arrest all the more unsettling. Authorities have released limited details about the evidence connecting Alan to the crime, citing the ongoing nature of the case. However, court documents revealed that Alan's vehicle had been seen near the Monon High Bridge on the day of the murders, and unsealed affidavits hinted at forensic evidence linking him to the scene. Despite the arrest, many questions remain unanswered. Was Alan the man in Libby's video? Could there be other individuals involved? Theories and speculation, as with any high-profile case, theories have run rampant online. Some believe Alan acted alone, while others think he may have had accomplices. Questions also surround the crime scene itself, which law enforcement described as unusual and posed. Was this the work of a single, disturbed individual, or is there a deeper, more complex story yet to be uncovered? Additionally, the timeline of events has left many scratching their heads. How did Alan, if guilty, evade capture for over 5 years while living in plain sight? And why did it take so long for law enforcement to connect him to the case? While answers may emerge during Alan's trial, the lack of clarity continues to haunt those following the case. The legacy of Libby and Abby. Despite the darkness surrounding this case, Libby and Abby's story is also one of bravery, resilience, and community. Their families have worked tirelessly to keep their memory alive, advocating for justice and creating foundations in their honor. The Abby and Libby Memorial Park, a tribute to their lives, now stands as a symbol of hope and unity in Delphi. As we wait for the legal process to unfold, one thing remains certain: Libby and Abby's courage will never be forgotten. Their story has inspired countless people to pay attention, speak up, and fight for justice, not just for them, but for all victims of unsolved crimes.
The haunting mystery of Elisa Lam. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Storyline Collectives. If you love unraveling chilling mysteries and true crime stories, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel to join us on this journey into the unknown. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old